Hello there, woven web enthusiasts. Today we have a gentleman that says his wife baby-trapped him. He's not even sure if that's an actual term, and if it is, was he in fact trapped? We're going to find out. A 34-year-old man posts in the relationship advice subreddit. He writes that I put baby trap in quotation marks because I'm not sure what she did is the actual definition of baby trapping. She didn't get pregnant to make me stay. She just got pregnant against my will. So I'm 34 and my wife is 32. We've been together for 8 years. We have a little girl that's 5 and a boy that's 2. When we talked about kids before, my wife always said she wanted 2, and I only wanted 1, mainly because of the money. But she insisted that it's important for a kid to have a sibling. I grew up with 4 and my wife with none, so I guess I understand where she's coming from. But when my son was about a year old, so about a year ago, she began casually mentioning a third. And I would laugh it off, but finally she set me down and said, "We have to have a third child." I said, "No, we agreed on 2. But she said she wanted 4, and 3 is now the compromise. I refused and said, "That's not what we talked about. I wanted 1, we agreed on 2. Then she blew up, started calling me selfish, and taking away her dream of wanting a big family. Finally, following this, she eventually apologized and backed off. Later, I noticed her sex drive became exponentially higher. I'm a guy. I'm happy to oblige. There's no problem. She was on birth control. We were also using condoms. All was good. Thinking back now, I probably should have figured out something was up, but the sex was great, so my reptilian mind stopped right there. I came home from work one day while the kids were at their grandparents', and my wife had this huge smile on her face, and she sat me down and showed me a positive pregnancy test, literally dancing with joy. My first thought was, oh shit. 3 kids. And she noticed my less than happy expression on my face, and her mood swung quick and ended up basically screaming at me. She berated me for not being supportive, and this was a miracle from God, and I should be grateful. So right then, in an effort to avoid an all-out war in that moment, I told her I was sorry and hugged her and said I was super excited for the baby. Later that night, she was calling family and friends to happily tell them the news. And when she was talking about the nursery and how we'll convert my office into a room, I started to get a little suspicious. This all seemed a little too planned out, perhaps. So that night, I took the condoms out of the cupboard, ran them underwater. Holes. I grabbed her phone. She was in bed. She'd set a password, which she'd never had before. Nevertheless, she has a terrible memory. I tried her birthday, and the phone unlocked. I go through texts with her best friend, scrolling back a while, and here's my wife complaining how I wouldn't come around to a third child. And her friend responds to, quote, "arrange an accident," unquote, with a winky face. And then later in the text exchange, my wife says she's coming off birth control. And I scroll further, and my wife says we are going to have 3 kids. So I wake her up, and I have her phone in my hand and ask her if this pregnancy really had been a miracle. She got that deer-in-the-headlights look and then quickly switched over to full-on aggression back at me. So she starts screaming at me that I had no right to go through her phone, and it's her choice whether or not she wants to take birth control because of the side effects. They're bad, and she was sick. She also brought up that if I really didn't want to have a third kid, I should have got a vasectomy. She keeps on. She tells me to go sleep on the couch. I laugh out loud and said, "No, I'm sleeping here in the bed. If anyone's leaving, you are." So while bawling, she packs up a bag and left for her parents. She called the next day, and I told her I just needed some time for myself. She said, "That's fine, but I need to come around for our child." I told her I wasn't sure it would be our child, and she cried even more. So that was 2 weeks ago. She spent that one night at her parents'. She's been back since. And she keeps stopping me around the house, trying to get me excited for our kid and planning the nursery and names and how happy our kids will be to get a younger sibling. And I've been ignoring her on the subject completely. What do? I don't trust her. She's betrayed me. She's pregnant, and the baby's coming. And the comments start off, "This is as abusive as a man taking off a condom in the middle of sex. In many states, sex under false pretenses invalidates consent." Alice X13 writes, "I love how if a guy doesn't wear a condom, it can be classified as rape because she didn't consent to sex without protection. But somehow cases like this fly under the radar." Fifth Sonata writes, "She has seriously hurt that baby. It's selfish and short-sighted. As a mother myself, my heart is hurting for that baby." Smiley Canadian writes, I worry that your marriage is over. She lied. She blamed it on you for not getting a vasectomy. She's not sorry. She doesn't respect your view, needs, or opinion. If she can't see how wrong she is and how much she broke your trust and hurt you, this marriage won't recover. And finally, Literature Girl writes, could you ever feel comfortable having sex with her again? Because you shouldn't. What's to say she won't do this to get pregnant a fourth time? What's to say that she's even pregnant now and hasn't bought a positive pregnancy test online and is waiting for you to accept it and then have sex with you and have it happen for real? Do not settle for this head fuck of a life. And as for me here at Woven Webs, I personally have been very close to 3 of these accidental pregnancies. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments. If you're enjoying the channel, hit that subscribe button. It certainly helps me out, and I appreciate you listening.